Okay, welcome to this week's edition of Paper Crafting with Tracy. This week we are going to be making this card here. And with this card I used the new Winter Woods stamp set that is in the holiday catalog. Sorry about that. So I will be using this set a couple times in my weekly videos because there is so much potential with this. It actually comes with a matching die set, which I will use in another week. So we'll just put that aside. Okay, so for this card, we are using Early Espresso paper and crumb cake cardstock as well, and the Very Vanilla. So I'll just move that one aside so I don't get it inked. We'll start with a piece of Very Vanilla. And I've got my stamp set, the stamp that I'm using, already on the block. And I'll get my Early Espresso ink. And I'm just going to get a piece of extra paper here. And we'll ink up the stamp. And now it does ink unevenly, and it's supposed to give varying depths. And I didn't want the full effect. I found it too dark. So I'm just going to off stamp first. And then I'm going to line it up on my card. Nice even pressure. And there we go. Okay, so it doesn't matter that there's some spots that doesn't have ink. That is the purpose of this one. Then I'm going to take a little bit of the crumb cake and a sponge here, and all I did was just add just a little bit in and amongst the trees just to soften it up a tiny bit. Okay, just to kind of blur it in there. Okay, we'll move that aside. And okay, so there's my center of my card, which I'll just put to the side. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do right now is stamp my sentiment. So I will get a piece of Very Vanilla. It's just 1/2 inch strip. And I used a sentiment from the Colorful Seasons stamp set. And I'm just doing Thinking of You for this one. So I will get my Early Espresso here, ink it up. And it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly centered because you're going to be cutting it. Oops, that wasn't quite evenly inked. There we go. So I just want to line it up. And there we go. Then I'm just going to take some scissors and I'm just going to snip the ends. Like so. Okay, so that's actually most of the stamping for today. We'll do one more stamp. I will get my, and that's for the inside of the card. So all I wanted was a tiny bit of the tree. So I'm just going to ink up one side. And again, I'm going to off stamp because I didn't want the whole thing. And then I'm just going to put that on. There we go. And that's all I wanted. And now it's time to assemble. So for this one here, I'm going to put it on a piece of Early Espresso first. Get my tape. Fortunately, I didn't push that down yet. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to put that on top of the crumb cake. Like so. Okay, now before I stick this on the base, I'm going to put the ribbon on. So I've got this copper trim. I love this. It is like a mesh, copper wire mesh, when you pull it apart. So just going to run that across like so. And then I took a little piece and just tied a knot. Now this wire, or this ribbon, does leave little bits of the copper, like little copper wire. And I'll trim that a tiny bit. And then all I did was pull it apart. Okay, oops. Should have stuck it on my card base first. Okay, so I've realized I've forgotten my card base, so I will attach it to this, and I will put it on my card base later. Okay, so now I just need to put my sentiment on it. So I got a piece of crumb cake and a piece of the espresso, and I just used my oval die, and I ran it through the Big Shot. And then all I'm doing is taping these together. And just sticking that on there. And then I'm taking my sentiment that I stamped already and sticking that in the center of it. Like so. Okay, now for the inside, and again I apologize, I forgot my card base, which I will attach later. All I'm doing is attaching, oops, okay, and that now goes on the inside of my card. So, I hope you enjoyed this week's Paper Crafting with Tracy video. Please join me next week for another demonstration. And also stay tuned for tomorrow, October 1st. And there's going to be a special promotion that is for 1 week only. So please stay tuned. And thank you for joining me today.